I walked into my dream job at Sterling Marketing Solutions on a bright Monday morning, coffee in hand, finally feeling free from the nightmare of my previous workplace. After months of unemployment and self-doubt, I had landed this position through sheer determination and countless interviews. I rounded the corner to my new cubicle, my heart full of hope for a fresh start, and I froze. There, sitting at the desk directly across from mine, was Madison Harper, the woman who made my life absolute hell for 2 years at my old company. Madison looked up with that familiar, cruel smile and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Well, well, well. I made your life hell, and you still can't escape me." The coffee cup slipped from my trembling hands, crashing to the floor in a cascade of brown liquid and ceramic shards. My new colleagues turned to stare, and I felt the familiar burning shame that Madison always managed to ignite within me. How was this possible? How could she be here, in my sanctuary, my fresh beginning? My mind raced back to Dataflow Industries, where I had spent 2 miserable years under Madison's relentless psychological warfare. She was like a master manipulator, systematically destroying my confidence and sabotaging my career at every turn. Madison would steal credit for my innovative marketing campaigns, presenting my ideas to senior management as her own brilliant concepts. She spread vicious rumors about my personal life, telling colleagues I was unstable and unreliable. During important client presentations, she would interrupt me with condescending questions designed to make me appear incompetent. The worst incident happened 6 months ago when I had developed a comprehensive digital strategy for our biggest client, Meridian Corp. I had worked nights and weekends, pouring my heart into research and analysis that could have revolutionized their online presence. Madison not only took complete credit for my work, but also managed to get me excluded from the final presentation entirely. She told our boss, Mr. Patterson, that I was overwhelmed and couldn't handle the pressure of such a high-profile account. When Meridian Corp loved the strategy and offered Dataflow a $1 million contract extension, Madison received a promotion and a $15,000 bonus. I watched from my cubicle as she celebrated with champagne, knowing that my ideas had built her success. That night, I went home and submitted my resignation letter. The job search had been brutal. 3 months of rejection letters, failed interviews, and dwindling savings. I had nearly given up when Sterling Marketing Solutions offered me this position as a marketing coordinator. It wasn't my dream role, but it was a chance to rebuild my career and escape the toxic environment Madison had created. Now, as I knelt on the floor picking up coffee-stained ceramic pieces, I heard Madison's voice dripping with false concern. "Oh, Violet, you always were so clumsy. I hope that's not going to be a problem here at Sterling." Standing up slowly, I forced myself to look around the office. Madison wasn't just sitting at any desk. She had a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows and a nameplate that read Madison Harper, Senior Account Manager. My heart sank as I realized the devastating truth. She hadn't just followed me here. She had been hired at a level 3 positions above mine, giving her authority over multiple departments, including my own. Jessica Walsh, the HR representative who had welcomed me that morning, approached with a concerned expression. "Violet, are you all right? Let me help you clean this up." As Jessica handed me paper towels, I whispered, "How long has Madison been working here?" "Madison started last Monday, just 1 week ago." Jessica replied cheerfully. She came very highly recommended from Dataflow Industries. Her references were absolutely glowing. Mr. Patterson himself called to praise her exceptional leadership skills and innovative thinking. The irony was suffocating. Madison was receiving credit for the very qualities she had spent 2 years destroying in me. I realized she must have seen my LinkedIn post about accepting the Sterling position. While I was celebrating my new beginning, she was already plotting her next move. "Jessica, I need to speak with you privately," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. In Jessica's office, I tried to explain the situation without sounding paranoid or vindictive. Madison and I worked together at Dataflow Industries. We had some professional conflicts, and am concerned about potential workplace dynamics. Jessica nodded sympathetically, but offered little comfort. I understand that previous workplace relationships can be challenging, Violet. However, Madison is in a senior position now, and am sure you both can maintain professional boundaries. If any specific issues arise, please don't hesitate to reach out. Walking back to my cubicle, I felt trapped in a nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. Madison was watching me with that predatory smile, already planning her next attack. I considered quitting on my first day, but I had been unemployed for 3 months. My savings were nearly depleted, and my rent was due in 2 weeks. I couldn't afford to run away again. Madison's voice carried across the office as she spoke to our department manager, Brian Rodriguez. I'm so excited to work with the team, Brian. I've already reviewed everyone's portfolios, and I have some ideas for improving efficiency and performance. Her eyes met mine as she emphasized the word improving. And I knew my hell was just beginning. Within my first week at Sterling Marketing, Madison's psychological warfare resumed with frightening precision. However, this time she had evolved. Her attacks were more sophisticated, wrapped in legitimate business language that made them nearly impossible to challenge. On Tuesday, Madison assigned me the Coastal Resorts campaign with a 2-day deadline that would typically require a week to complete properly. I know you're eager to prove yourself here, Violet, she said during our morning team meeting. This accelerated timeline will really showcase your abilities. When I tried to explain that the timeline was unrealistic, Madison interrupted with a patronizing smile. At Dataflow, we learn to work efficiently under pressure. I'm confident you can adapt to Sterling's high-performance expectations. The campaign required market research, competitor analysis, creative concepts, and budget projections. I worked until midnight both nights, surviving on coffee and determination. When I presented the completed campaign Thursday morning, Madison picked apart every detail in front of the entire marketing team. The demographic research seems shallow, Violet. Did you consider seasonal variations in booking patterns? And this color palette feels outdated for the coastal tourism market. She turned to our colleagues with a concerned expression. I worry we're not meeting coastal resorts' expectations for innovation. Every criticism was technically valid but ignored the impossible timeline she had imposed. My colleagues began exchanging glances, and I could see doubt creeping into their assessment of my capabilities. Wednesday brought a new humiliation. Madison scheduled a critical client call with Pinnacle Financial during my mandatory new employee orientation training. When I explained the conflict, she responded with mock surprise. "Oh, Violet, I marked you as available on the calendar. This orientation can surely be rescheduled, but Pinnacle Financial specifically requested a meeting today." Her voice carried just enough disappointment to suggest I was being difficult. I missed the client call and later learned that Madison had told Pinnacle Financial I was dealing with adjustment challenges in my new role. She presented herself as stepping in to maintain their confidence in Sterling's team. The pattern continued throughout the week. Madison would exclude me from important meetings, then express concern that I wasn't integrating well with key stakeholders. She questioned my recommendations in front of clients, always with plausible business justifications that made me appear inexperienced rather than sabotaged. Friday brought the most shocking revelation. During lunch, I overheard Madison speaking with Jessica Walsh near the copy machine. "I appreciate how accommodating Sterling has been regarding my medical condition," Madison was saying. "The flexible arrangements make such a difference in managing my chronic pain." "Medical condition?" I moved closer, pretending to organize files in a nearby cabinet. Jessica's voice was full of sympathy. "Of course, Madison. We're committed to supporting all employees with documented medical needs. How are the new ergonomic accommodations working for you? The premium chair and adjustable desk are wonderful. And being able to work from home when my symptoms flare up is essential. My doctor was very clear that standing for more than 5 minutes can trigger severe episodes. I felt confused and suspicious. During our 2 years at Dataflow Industries, I had never seen any sign that Madison had physical limitations. She regularly wore high heels, stood through long presentations, and even participated in the company softball league. Monday morning brought clarity about how Madison planned to weaponize her alleged medical condition. When I tried to schedule a one-on-one meeting to discuss campaign strategies, Madison's assistant, Carol, explained apologetically. Madison's medical condition prevents extended meetings. Violet. She can only do brief check-ins, maybe 10 or 15 minutes maximum. Doctor's orders. Yet somehow Madison managed to attend 2-hour client presentations and lengthy leadership meetings with no apparent difficulty. When there was a team lunch where I might have built relationships with colleagues, Madison claimed her condition prevented her from attending social events. However, she mysteriously appeared at every meeting where she could undermine my work or take credit for my contributions. Tuesday afternoon, I watched Madison stand for over 20 minutes presenting campaign ideas to a group of executives, gesturing enthusiastically and moving around the conference room with ease. When the meeting ended and Madison noticed me watching, she immediately sat down and rubbed her back dramatically. "These long presentations are so challenging with my condition," she said loudly enough for others to hear. "But I never want to let the team down." I began to suspect that Madison's medical condition was as fabricated as the glowing personality she presented to management. But proving it seemed impossible, especially when she held such a senior position and had already established herself as the reliable, accommodating team leader. Wednesday evening, I stayed late to catch up on work, feeling overwhelmed by the constant pressure and sabotage. The office was empty except for the cleaning crew when I decided to grab a coffee from the break room. Walking past Madison's office, I noticed the glow of her computer screen through the partially open door. Curiosity overrode caution as I peered inside. Madison's computer was still logged in, and I could see multiple windows open on her screen. One window caught my attention immediately. It was an insurance portal showing recent claims and disability payments. My heart raced as I realized what I was seeing. This wasn't just about workplace harassment anymore. Madison was running a much bigger, much more dangerous game than I had ever imagined. My hands trembled as I stepped into Madison's empty office, knowing I was crossing a line but unable to resist the opportunity to understand what she was really doing. The insurance portal remained open on her computer screen, displaying information that made my blood run cold. The disability payments were staggering, $1,200 per month for chronic pain syndrome that allegedly prevented Madison from performing basic physical activities. Medical reimbursements totaled over $8,000 in the past 6 months alone, covering treatments for physical therapy, pain management consultations, and specialized equipment that I was certain she never actually received. But the insurance fraud was just the beginning. A second browser window showed a social media profile under the name Maddie Stone, with Madison's photo and a completely fabricated life story. The recent posts revealed a woman who was anything but disabled. Photos from 3 weeks ago showed Madison hiking a challenging trail in Rocky Mountain National Park, her face glowing with exertion and triumph as she posed at a scenic overlook. Another post from 2 weeks ago featured her participating in a competitive pool tournament at Murphy's Sports Bar, leaning over the table for complex shots that required precise coordination and extended periods of standing. The most damning evidence was a video from just 5 days ago showing Madison dancing at a friend's wedding reception. She moved with fluid grace, spinning and laughing without any sign of physical limitation. The timestamp on the video corresponded with a day when she had called in sick to Sterling, claiming a severe pain flare-up. Scrolling deeper into her profile history, I discovered that this wasn't Madison's first fraudulent scheme. Her About section mentioned previous employers that didn't match her official resume. Cross-referencing the locations and dates, I realized Madison had been systematically moving from company to company, never staying longer than 18 months at any one position. A third browser window revealed her strategy in horrifying detail. Madison had bookmarked articles about insurance fraud detection, disability claim requirements, and corporate benefits packages. She had researched Sterling Marketing Solutions extensively before applying, specifically targeting their generous health insurance plan and flexible accommodation policies. Most disturbing was a document folder labeled Medical Documentation that contained templates for various disability-related forms. She had created a complete fictional medical history, complete with forged doctor's notes and fabricated treatment records. The level of planning and deception was breathtaking in its scope and audacity. I took photos of the screen with my phone, my heart pounding as I documented the evidence. This wasn't just workplace bullying anymore. Madison was a professional con artist who had turned disability fraud into a career. As I prepared to leave, I noticed a folder labeled Sterling Personnel that contained detailed profiles of every employee in our department. Madison had researched our backgrounds, our previous work experience, and our personal social media profiles. My own file was thick with screenshots from my LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram accounts. The notes about me were particularly chilling. Insecure, prone to self-doubt, previous victim at Dataflow Industries, unlikely to fight back if pressure is applied systematically, perfect target for establishing dominance and deflecting attention from other activities. Madison hadn't just followed me to Sterling by coincidence. She had specifically chosen this company because she knew I would be here, knowing that her previous psychological manipulation would make me an easy target to control and intimidate. The sophistication of her planning became even clearer as I read her notes about other colleagues. She had identified Brian Rodriguez as ambitious but insecure about his management experience, and Jessica Walsh as rule-focused but easily manipulated through emotional appeals. Every person in our department had been analyzed for their weaknesses and potential usefulness, but the most shocking discovery was in a folder labeled Exit Strategy. Madison had already planned her departure from Sterling, targeting a timeline of 12 to 14 months. She had researched her next target company, Meridian Solutions, which ironically was the same client she had stolen my work for at Dataflow Industries. The pattern was becoming clear. Madison would join a company, establish credibility through stolen ideas and manipulated relationships, file extensive fraudulent medical claims to maximize financial gain, then move on before anyone could discover the truth. She had perfected this system over multiple companies, leaving a trail of confused colleagues and depleted insurance funds in her wake. I realized that during our 2 years at Dataflow Industries, Madison hadn't just been bullying me personally. She had been using me as a source of innovative ideas while building her fraudulent medical profile. My creative work had funded her lifestyle, while my suffering provided the perfect distraction from her illegal activities. The sound of footsteps in the hallway sent panic through my system. I quickly closed the browser windows and slipped out of Madison's office, my mind racing with the implications of what I had discovered. Walking back to my cubicle, I felt the weight of an impossible decision. I had evidence of serious crimes that were hurting not just me but potentially dozens of other victims across multiple companies. But confronting Madison directly would be professional suicide, especially given her senior position and the sympathy she had already cultivated regarding her fictional medical condition. Worse, I realized that Madison would immediately recognize any attempt to expose her as coming from me. She would unleash the full force of her manipulative skills to destroy my credibility and potentially my entire career. But staying silent meant watching her continue to victimize innocent people while stealing thousands of dollars from insurance companies that other people depended on for legitimate medical care. As I gathered my things to leave that evening, Madison's voice stopped me cold. "Violet, you're working late again. You know, excessive overtime can indicate problems with time management and efficiency. I'd hate for anyone to think you're struggling to keep up with our pace here at Sterling." She was watching me with those calculating eyes, and I wondered if she somehow knew what I had discovered. The game between us had just become infinitely more dangerous, and I was no longer sure who held the advantage. The next morning, I arrived at Sterling to find my computer password had been reset overnight. When I called IT support, they informed me that my supervisor had reported suspicious activity on my account and requested a security reset as a precautionary measure. Madison appeared at my cubicle with a concerned expression that fooled everyone except me. "I noticed some unusual file access patterns yesterday evening, Violet. I felt it was important to protect our client data by having IT investigate potential security issues." Her message was crystal clear. She knew I had discovered her secret, and this was her warning shot. The IT reset was just the beginning of what I suspected would be an escalating campaign to destroy my credibility before I could expose her crimes. Throughout the week, Madison's retaliation intensified with surgical precision. Important files began disappearing from shared drives, always projects I was responsible for managing. When clients asked about missing deliverables, Madison would express disappointment about my organizational challenges, while offering to personally ensure the work was completed. The most devastating attack came Thursday morning. I arrived to find angry emails from 3 major clients complaining about inappropriate messages they had received from my company account. The emails were crude and unprofessional, suggesting that their businesses were failing and that they should consider switching to our competitors. "This is completely unacceptable," Brian Rodriguez said during an emergency meeting. "Violet, these emails came from your account. How do you explain this?" I stared at the printed emails, recognizing my name but not my writing style. "Brian, I never sent these messages. Someone must have accessed my account." Madison shook her head sympathetically. "I understand that adjusting to a new workplace can be stressful, Violet. But we can't allow personal struggles to impact client relationships. These emails show a concerning lack of judgment. The IT department confirmed that the emails had been sent from my computer during hours when I was supposedly in the office. Security footage showed me at my desk during the relevant times, but the camera angle didn't capture my computer screen clearly enough to prove I hadn't sent the messages. By Friday, Madison had filed a formal HR complaint that painted me as an unstable employee who was harassing her about her medical condition. Her documentation was meticulous, detailing alleged incidents where I had made inappropriate comments about her disability accommodations and created a hostile work environment. On Monday, Ms. Patterson questioned why I needed ergonomic equipment, suggesting that I was exaggerating my condition for special treatment. Madison had written, "On Wednesday, she made snide remarks about my medical absences, implying that I was malingering. This behavior is creating severe stress that is exacerbating my chronic pain syndrome." Jessica Walsh called me into her office with a grave expression. "Violet, I'm required to inform you that you're being formally investigated for disability, discrimination, and harassment. These are extremely serious allegations that could result in immediate termination and potential legal consequences." The irony was suffocating. Madison was using her fabricated disability as a weapon against me, turning her own fraud into my prosecution. Her fake medical condition had become an unassailable shield that protected her from any challenge to her behavior. "Jessica, I think there are things about Madison that you need to know," I began carefully. "Violet, I need to stop you there," Jessica interrupted. "Given the current investigation, any comments you make about Madison's medical condition or character could be seen as further harassment. I strongly advise you to focus on your own professional behavior rather than making additional accusations." I felt trapped in a legal maze that Madison had constructed specifically to silence me. Any attempt to expose her fraud would be interpreted as vindictive harassment of a disabled employee. She had weaponized the very system designed to protect vulnerable workers. That weekend, I made a decision that would either save my career or destroy it completely. I couldn't fight Madison using Sterling's internal processes because she had already corrupted them. But her insurance fraud was a federal crime, and she couldn't manipulate the legal system as easily as she manipulated corporate policies. I began methodically documenting everything I had discovered, organizing the evidence into a comprehensive case file. The photos from her social media accounts, the insurance payment records, the pattern of job transitions, and the systematic nature of her fraudulent claims. But I knew this evidence alone wouldn't be enough. Madison was smart and careful, and she would have prepared defenses for any accusations. I needed to find other victims who could corroborate her pattern of behavior and provide additional evidence of her crimes. Monday morning brought another escalation. Madison had scheduled a mandatory team meeting to discuss communication issues that were affecting department morale. She presented a PowerPoint presentation about professional boundaries and appropriate workplace conduct, with thinly veiled references to recent incidents involving unnamed team members. We must all be mindful that accusations and gossip can severely damage team cohesion, Madison said, her eyes meeting mine, particularly when these accusations target colleagues who are dealing with serious medical challenges. After the meeting, Madison approached me privately. "Violet, I want you to know that I hold no personal animosity toward you. I understand that transitioning to a new workplace can be overwhelming, especially for someone with your history of workplace difficulties." Her tone was perfectly calibrated to sound compassionate while delivering a threat. She was reminding me that she had the power to destroy my reputation permanently, while positioning herself as the reasonable party trying to help a troubled employee. "I'm hoping we can resolve these misunderstandings before they escalate further," she continued. "I would hate to see your career suffer because of some unfortunate miscommunications." That evening, I made the phone calls that would change everything. I had spent the weekend tracking down former Dataflow Industries employees, and I was about to discover that Madison's web of deception extended far beyond anything I had imagined. My first call was to Sarah Chen, who had worked in Madison's department at Dataflow Industries before transferring to their West Coast office. Sarah's reaction to my questions was immediate and intense. "Oh my God, you're talking about Madison Harper? That woman destroyed my life for 8 months. I thought I was going crazy until I finally got transferred to Los Angeles." Sarah's story was eerily similar to mine. Madison had stolen credit for her innovative social media campaigns while systematically undermining her confidence through gaslighting and professional sabotage. But Sarah revealed something I hadn't known about our time at Dataflow. "Did you know she was collecting disability payments the entire time she worked there? I accidentally saw paperwork in her car when she gave me a ride after our company party. She was getting $1,200 a month for some kind of back injury, but I watched her moving heavy boxes and playing volleyball at company picnics. The pattern was becoming clearer. Madison had been running the same insurance fraud scheme at Dataflow while using workplace harassment to distract from her illegal activities. Her victims were too focused on surviving her psychological attacks to notice the financial crimes happening in parallel. My second call was to David Thompson, a former Dataflow employee who now worked at Peterson and Associates. David's experience revealed the scope of Madison's financial crimes. "Madison didn't just steal ideas and harass people," David explained. "She was embezzling money through fake vendor accounts. I was in accounting, and I noticed irregularities in some consulting contracts. When I tried to investigate, Madison made my life so miserable that I eventually quit." David had discovered that Madison created fictional consulting companies to bill Dataflow for services that were never provided. She would submit invoices for market research, strategy consulting, and creative services, then funnel the payments into personal bank accounts. Her estimated theft from Dataflow alone exceeded $40,000. The crazy part was that she made the accounting irregularities look like my mistakes, David continued. She would alter documents and then claim I had processed payments incorrectly. By the time I left, management thought I was incompetent. My third call connected me with Rachel Martinez, who had worked with Madison at Pinnacle Marketing 2 years earlier. Rachel's story revealed the true extent of Madison's criminal enterprise. "Madison was at Pinnacle for exactly 18 months, Rachel said. "She left right before our annual benefits audit, which I thought was suspicious timing. After she left, we discovered major discrepancies in our insurance claims and vendor payments. Rachel explained that Madison had filed over $20,000 in fraudulent medical claims during her time at Pinnacle, including treatments for conditions she never had and equipment she never received. She had also created fake vendor relationships that channeled another $15,000 into her personal accounts. The company was so embarrassed that they covered up the whole thing rather than prosecute. They were afraid of bad publicity and potential lawsuits from other employees who might have been affected. This conversation revealed Madison's most insidious strategy. She deliberately targeted mid-sized companies that were more concerned with reputation management than criminal prosecution. These businesses would quietly absorb the losses rather than admit they had been systematically robbed by a trusted employee. Over the next week, I contacted 5 more former colleagues from Madison's previous workplaces. Each conversation revealed the same pattern: stolen intellectual property, workplace harassment, insurance fraud, and embezzlement, followed by Madison's carefully timed departure before anyone could expose her crimes. The total financial damage across 4 companies exceeded $80,000, but the human cost was immeasurable. Madison had destroyed careers, damaged mental health, and left a trail of confused and traumatized victims who had never understood what had really happened to them. Working with these other victims, I began building a comprehensive case that documented Madison's criminal enterprise across multiple jurisdictions and time periods. We compiled financial records showing the fraudulent insurance claims, social media evidence proving her physical capabilities contradicted her disability claims, and witness statements from colleagues who had observed her suspicious behavior. The most damning evidence came from Rachel, who had secretly recorded a conversation with Madison during her final weeks at Pinnacle Marketing. In the recording, Madison bragged about her ability to manipulate corporate systems and exploit well-meaning HR departments. These companies are so terrified of discrimination lawsuits that they'll believe anything if you claim it's medical, Madison had said. File the right paperwork, get the right documentation, and you're basically untouchable. Meanwhile, they're paying you to steal from them. But building the case was only half the challenge. We needed to present our evidence in a way that would trigger serious investigation while protecting ourselves from Madison's inevitable retaliation. She had already demonstrated her ability to destroy careers and manipulate corporate systems to silence her victims. I decided to approach Sterling's chief legal officer, Robert Chen, who had a reputation for ethical leadership and zero tolerance for corporate fraud. However, I knew I would only get one chance to present our case, and Madison would immediately begin damage control once she learned about our investigation. The timing would be crucial. We needed to coordinate our disclosure with multiple law enforcement agencies and insurance companies simultaneously, preventing Madison from destroying evidence or fleeing before authorities could act. As I prepared our presentation, I realized that this case was bigger than just exposing Madison's crimes. We had uncovered a systematic approach to corporate fraud that could be replicated by other criminals. Our evidence could help companies and insurance providers identify and prevent similar schemes in the future, but first, we had to survive Madison's reaction when she discovered what we had been planning. I had no doubt that she would unleash every weapon in her arsenal to destroy us before we could destroy her. The showdown was coming, and only one side would survive with their career and reputation intact. Monday morning, I requested an urgent meeting with Sterling's chief legal officer, Robert Chen. His reputation for integrity and thorough investigation gave me hope that our evidence would receive serious consideration despite Madison's senior position and carefully constructed persona. Robert's office overlooked downtown Denver, and I felt the weight of the moment as I spread our documentation across his conference table. Financial records, insurance fraud evidence, social media screenshots, witness statements, and recorded conversations painted a comprehensive picture of Madison's criminal enterprise. "This is extraordinary, Violet," Robert said after reviewing our materials for over an hour. "If these allegations are accurate, we're looking at federal crimes spanning multiple jurisdictions and potentially dozens of victims. His immediate response was to contact Sterling's external law firm and the company's insurance carriers to report potential fraud. Within hours, a team of forensic accountants and fraud investigators were examining Madison's employment records, expense reports, and benefits claims. "We need to be extremely careful about how we proceed," Robert explained. "Madison has established herself as a protected employee due to her documented medical condition. Any investigation that appears to target her disability status could expose Sterling to discrimination lawsuits." The solution was elegant and devastating. Rather than confronting Madison directly, Sterling would implement a mandatory company-wide audit of all medical accommodations and benefits claims. This comprehensive review would examine every employee's documentation while focusing special attention on any irregularities or inconsistencies. "We're also coordinating with local law enforcement and the FBI's white-collar crime division," Robert continued. "Your evidence suggests a pattern of interstate fraud that falls under federal jurisdiction." The investigation moved swiftly but discreetly. Sterling's IT department conducted a forensic analysis of Madison's computer access, discovering that she had indeed hacked into my account to send the inappropriate client emails. They found deleted files showing her systematic manipulation of project timelines and her theft of intellectual property from multiple colleagues. Insurance fraud investigators from Mutual Benefit Corporation, Sterling's health insurance provider, began tracking Madison's medical claims against her actual activities. They coordinated with investigators from her previous employer's insurance companies, revealing a multi-state fraud conspiracy that had cost insurance providers over $60,000 in false claims. Meanwhile, FBI financial crimes specialists traced Madison's bank accounts and discovered a complex network of fake consulting companies and fraudulent vendor relationships. Her embezzlement activities across multiple employers totaled over $120,000 when accounting for inflation and interest. But the most crucial element of the investigation was establishing surveillance to catch Madison in the act of contradicting her claimed disability. Insurance investigators needed definitive proof that her physical limitations were fabricated, evidence that could withstand legal challenges and support criminal prosecution. The trap was set when Jessica Walsh informed Madison that Sterling was implementing mandatory fitness assessments for all employees with medical accommodations. This policy, supposedly designed to ensure appropriate workplace safety measures, would require Madison to demonstrate her physical limitations under medical supervision. "The assessment is purely to update your accommodation needs," Jessica explained to Madison during their meeting. "We want to make sure we're providing optimal support for your chronic pain condition." Madison's response was immediate and panicked. Within hours, she produced an updated doctor's note claiming her condition had significantly worsened. The new documentation stated that she could not stand for more than 5 minutes, could not lift more than 10 pounds, and could not engage in any physical activities without triggering severe pain episodes. "The timing is unfortunate," Madison told Jessica. "My pain levels have been escalating recently due to stress from some workplace conflicts. My physician is very concerned about any additional physical demands." That evening, insurance investigators followed Madison to Murphy's Sports Bar, where she participated in the weekly pool tournament. Hidden cameras captured over 2 hours of footage showing Madison standing continuously, leaning over pool tables for complex shots, and celebrating victories with physical gestures that completely contradicted her claimed disabilities. The surveillance footage was devastating. Madison moved with fluid precision, demonstrating fine motor control, extended standing tolerance, and dynamic balance that proved her medical documentation was entirely fabricated. She even helped move heavy equipment when the bar rearranged tables for the tournament. Additional surveillance over the following week captured Madison hiking mountain trails, dancing at social events, and lifting heavy shopping bags during weekend activities. Every moment was documented with timestamp evidence that coincided with her reported medical absences from work. The final pieces of evidence came from Madison's own digital communications. FBI cybercrime specialists discovered encrypted files on her personal devices containing detailed plans for her fraud schemes, templates for forged medical documents, and financial records showing the disposition of stolen funds. Most damaging was a journal-style document where Madison had written about her criminal activities with chilling detachment. Corporate America is so focused on avoiding lawsuits that they've created perfect opportunities for systematic exploitation. Medical discrimination fears make HR departments completely compliant with any accommodation request supported by proper documentation. Meanwhile, their own systems provide multiple avenues for financial extraction through vendor manipulation and benefits fraud. The journal revealed that Madison viewed her victims not as human beings, but as strategic assets in her criminal enterprise. She specifically targeted creative and talented employees whose work she could steal, while their emotional distress provided cover for her financial crimes. "Insecure high performers are ideal targets," she had written. "Their imposter syndrome makes them unlikely to fight back, while their innovative thinking provides valuable intellectual property. Systematic psychological pressure keeps them focused on survival rather than investigation." By Thursday, investigators had assembled an overwhelming case spanning multiple felonies across several states. Federal prosecutors confirmed they had sufficient evidence to pursue charges including wire fraud, insurance fraud, embezzlement, identity theft, and racketeering under the RICO statute. The moment of reckoning was scheduled for Friday morning. Madison would be called into what she believed was a routine accommodation review meeting, but instead would face the full weight of law enforcement and corporate justice. As I prepared for the confrontation that would finally end Madison's reign of terror, I felt a mixture of anticipation and nervous energy. After years of manipulation and abuse, the truth was about to be revealed in the most dramatic way possible. Friday morning arrived with crisp autumn air and the promise of justice that I had dreamed about for years. Madison walked into the Sterling conference room at 9 a.m. sharp, expecting a routine discussion about her medical accommodations. Instead, she found a carefully orchestrated confrontation that would shatter her carefully constructed world of lies. Seated around the conference table were Robert Chen, Jessica Walsh, FBI Special Agent Maria Rodriguez, insurance fraud investigator James Patterson, Denver Police Detective Sarah Johnson, and 2 additional federal prosecutors. Madison's confident smile faltered as she realized this was not the meeting she had anticipated. "Please have a seat, Madison," Robert said calmly. "We need to discuss some serious discrepancies that have come to light regarding your employment here at Sterling." Madison attempted to maintain her composed facade, but I could see panic flickering in her eyes as she processed the gravity of the situation. "I'm not sure what this is about, but I'm happy to clarify any misunderstandings." Special Agent Rodriguez placed a thick folder on the table and opened it to reveal surveillance photographs from Murphy's sports bar. The images showed Madison leaning over pool tables, standing for extended periods, and celebrating her tournament victories with animated gestures. "These photographs were taken Wednesday evening while you were reportedly experiencing a severe pain flare-up that prevented you from attending work," Agent Rodriguez explained. "Can you explain how someone with documented mobility limitations requiring constant sitting accommodations managed to play competitive pool for over 2 hours?" Madison's face went pale as she stared at the evidence. "I don't understand how this is relevant to my employment. My medical condition has good days and bad days." Detective Johnson opened a second folder containing Madison's financial records and insurance claims documentation. "Over the past 18 months, you've received $14,400 in disability payments from Mutual Benefit Corporation for chronic pain syndrome. You've also submitted reimbursement requests totaling $21,000 for medical treatments and equipment." The detective slid additional photographs across the table showing Madison hiking, dancing, and participating in physical activities that directly contradicted every medical claim she had filed. Insurance investigator Patterson leaned forward with a grim expression. Our investigation has revealed that you've filed fraudulent disability claims with 4 different insurance companies over the past 3 years, totaling over $60,000 in false payments. We've also discovered that the medical practitioners who allegedly treated you have no record of your visits. Madison's composure finally cracked as the full scope of the evidence became apparent. This is a misunderstanding. I can provide additional medical documentation to clarify any confusion. We've already contacted the physicians whose names appear on your documentation, Agent Rodriguez replied. Doctor, Harrison's office has no record of treating you for chronic pain, Doctor. Martinez confirmed that the letterhead on your medical notes is a forgery. Dr. Williams died 2 years ago, yet you've submitted recent treatment records, allegedly signed by him. Federal prosecutor Jennifer Adams opened her own folder and began reading from a prepared statement. Madison Harper, you are being charged with federal wire fraud, insurance fraud, mail fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. These charges carry a potential sentence of up to 20 years in federal prison. The prosecutor continued listing additional charges related to Madison's embezzlement activities across multiple employers. Our investigation has uncovered systematic theft, totaling over $120,000 through fraudulent vendor accounts, manipulated expense reports, and unauthorized financial transfers. Madison finally abandoned her act of innocent confusion and revealed the calculating criminal underneath. I want an attorney before I say anything else. This entire proceeding is a setup orchestrated by disgruntled employees who can't accept legitimate business decisions. Detective Johnson stood up and approached Madison with handcuffs. Madison Harper, you are under arrest for insurance fraud, embezzlement, wire fraud, and conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. As the handcuffs clicked around Madison's wrists, she turned toward me with a venomous glare that contained none of the false sympathy she had perfected over the years. You have no idea what you've done, Violet. This will destroy both of us. But for the first time in our relationship, Madison's threats felt empty and powerless. She was no longer the manipulative predator who had controlled my life through fear and gaslighting. She was just a criminal, facing the consequences of her choices. The aftermath unfolded with satisfying swiftness. Madison was denied bail due to flight risk concerns and remained in federal custody while awaiting trial. Her assets were frozen pending restitution proceedings, and investigators discovered offshore accounts containing stolen funds from additional victims across multiple states. Sterling Marketing Solutions not only cleared me of all accusations, but promoted me to senior project manager with a salary increase of $18,000 and a retroactive bonus recognizing my contributions to exposing corporate fraud. The company implemented comprehensive fraud prevention measures and established a whistleblower protection program to support employees reporting suspicious activities. Within 3 months, Madison pled guilty to 17 federal charges to avoid a lengthy trial that would have exposed even more victims and criminal activities. She received a sentence of 3 years in federal prison plus 5 years of supervised probation, with requirements to pay full restitution to all victims and insurance companies. The prosecution became a landmark case for corporate fraud prevention, and our evidence helped law enforcement identify similar schemes at other companies. Madison's systematic approach to workplace manipulation and financial crime was studied by FBI behavioral analysts and used to train corporate security professionals. More importantly, I reconnected with Madison's other victims, and together we formed a support network for professionals who had experienced workplace bullying and fraud. We advocated for stronger corporate policies, protecting whistleblowers, and helped other victims find the courage to speak up about abuse and illegal activities. The experience taught me that staying silent about injustice only enables more harm to innocent people. Madison relied on her victims' fear and isolation to continue her crimes, but when we found our voices and worked together, her power evaporated completely. I learned that bullies and criminals count on our shame and self-doubt to protect them from consequences. They create environments where victims blame themselves rather than recognizing systematic abuse and manipulation. But courage is contagious. When one person stands up to injustice, it gives others permission to do the same. Our collective voice became stronger than Madison's individual manipulation, and together we created justice where none had existed before. Today, I lead Sterling's new corporate ethics and fraud prevention department, helping other companies identify and prevent the kind of systematic abuse that Madison perfected. My experience as her victim gave me unique insights into how predators operate within corporate environments, and I've turned that painful knowledge into a force for protecting other people. The little girl inside me who had been terrorized and silenced finally found her voice, and that voice became a tool for helping others find theirs. Madison intended to destroy my confidence and steal my future, but instead she inadvertently gave me the purpose and strength to become someone who fights for justice every single day. Sometimes the worst experiences in our lives become the foundation for our greatest contributions to the world. Madison thought she was destroying me, but she was actually forging me into exactly the person I needed to become. Have you ever faced a workplace bully who seemed untouchable? Or discovered that someone you trusted was living a completely different life behind their public persona? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below, because sharing our stories helps other people recognize when they're being manipulated and gives them courage to fight back. If this story resonated with you, or reminded you that justice is possible even in the darkest situations, please give it a like to help others find hope in their own struggles. Subscribe for more stories about ordinary people finding extraordinary courage to stand up for what's right, and share this with anyone who needs to know that bullies and criminals can be defeated when good people work together. Thank you for listening to my story and for being part of a community that believes in justice, courage, and the power of speaking truth to power. Remember that your voice matters, your experiences are valid, and together we can create workplaces and communities where everyone is treated with dignity and respect.